On Sunday, we had the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, and oh my goodness, I don't even know. It's funny because I already forgot the intimate details of the earlier races from earlier this year. But to me, Silverstone 2022 is one of the most, if not the most, engaging and entertaining races of the year so far in Formula One. There was so much action. It was a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing. It was basically, there was like no boring or dull moments the entire race, and I loved it. Even, so we'll talk first of all, here are the points finishes at Silverstone on the podium. You had Carlos Sainz getting his first ever win in Formula One. Cool. Fun to be excited about if you're Spanish and you love Carlos Sainz. Good for him. In second was Sergio Perez for Red Bull. On lap 6, by the way, he was dead last. He was 17th out of 17th in the race. Still found a way to not only get on the podium, but get second in this race at Silverstone. And then, Sergio Perez made a crazy recovery. Then to round out the podium in third place was Lewis Hamilton. He also got fastest lap. He was probably, I think Lewis could have won with a different tire strategy. Like, he drove really, really well. And it felt like the beginning of some gathering momentum for Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes. In fourth place, you had Charles Leclerc, which is honestly disappointing. I think Charles Leclerc, we'll talk about it. I think Charles Leclerc should have probably finished higher in this race, and that's very disappointing. In fifth place, you had Fernando Alonso. In sixth place, you had Lando Norris. That battle, Alpine versus McLaren, is really fun. In seventh place, you had Max Verstappen. He had car damage. He was actually, I think, lucky to get any points in this race. We'll talk about that in the future in a minute. Mick Schumacher got his first ever points in Formula One for Haas. That's really cool. Sebastian Vettel got 9th. And in 10th place, you got Kevin Magnussen, the other Haas. A double points finish for Haas. Okay, we need to talk about the crash on lap 1. Really, lap 1, turn 1. It's pretty scary. A bunch of cars made contact. George Russell, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, Esteban Ocon. Is it Ocon or Ocon? I always say Ocon. I hope that's right. You hear both from the British people. No one knows, it seems like. And then Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo had a really big crash. So Alex Albon, George Russell, and Zhou Guanyu did not finish the race. They got through one turn, and the race was over for them. Yuki Tsunoda limped back to the pits with a ton of damage on his front wing. Like, his front wing is like literally hanging under his tires. He's trying to drive. Esteban Ocon barely finished lap 1 with a flat tire that was like just hanging on with it was kind of, you almost like, I love to personify a tire like that, but like that was a valiant effort by the tire to hang on and allow the Alpine car to finish the lap. Now, the race got red flagged. It stopped, and Zhou Guanyu's car flipped and then skidded upside down for a long time, then flipped over the barrier into the fence, and it was really scary because they didn't show Zhou Guanyu on camera for a long time. It made it even more ominous. You're like, is the guy okay? What's going on? And the car is upside down, pinned between the wall and the barrier, and he's stuck in there like he couldn't get out. And we're lucky he's okay. I mean, it's pretty amazing that it could have been so much worse. I think about the Halo. I remember the Halo getting added to Formula One like recently, a couple years ago. And people hated that idea. They fought against it so hard. And in the old days of Formula One, Zhou Guanyu would have died. Like, it's without the Halo, like, at least, I love the movie Rush about James Hunt and Niki Lauda. That era, the Ayrton Senna era even, Zhou Guanyu would have died. So the Halo's awesome. The Halo made things a very different story where a guy is alive and seems totally okay, actually, rather than a horrifying story that is a stain on Formula One. So the Halo, great move. Also, that's still alarming. He was very close to the fence where the car went. Thankfully, there was no fire, but if there had been a fire, he's close to fans. They might have got hurt, and he's pinned under the car. It's a horrifying crash. I want to give a shout out to Sky Sports reporter Karun Shantok, who did a really great replay breakdown of the crash. And by the way, like the Halo, some part of the car that was rubbing on the tarmac, a Zhou Guanyu's car, as it's upside down, by the way. It dug a deep gash into the tarmac. Like there was a deep indent in the concrete along the track. You're like, man, I'm so glad his head didn't hit the pavement. It's just really scary to see it crash like that. When you think a little deeply, like, it's fine. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but when you think about the ways things could have gone differently, it's terrifying. Now, let's talk about the race itself, because I was surprised when I thought maybe that kind of crash was going to really throw the race off and not make it very interesting, but somehow, best race of the year. I don't even know how that happened, but it was a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing. There was so much action. There was so much going on. And, you know, Sergio Perez, for example, got front wing damage. He was in 4th place. He had to pit, came out dead last on lap 6. So for him, he recovered, finished 2nd in the race. That's incredible. Max Verstappen was in 1st place for a while, holding his own. Probably, I thought he was going to win another race. And then suddenly on lap 12, he slows down a ton. He gets past, losing power. You're like, what's going on? Apparently, he had floor damage. A piece of carbon was lodged under his car. He was able to keep driving. They found out, like, it's not critical damage, but it's going to affect your performance, and it cost him a ton of speed. He lost a ton of downforce. It impacted his aerodynamics and his ability to use the ground effect. And so Max Verstappen was lucky to get any points at all. Now, the middle part of this race was a lot of tire strategy. People complaining about grip and the hard tires weren't as good as people thought. But on lap 39 of 52, it got even more interesting. Esteban Ocon, he had a fuel pump issue, had to retire on the side of the track, and that brought out the safety car. Now, at the front of the race, you got Carlos Sainz, Charles Leclerc, and Lewis Hamilton. Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton took advantage of the safety car and got a cheap pit stop. Charles Leclerc stayed out. He didn't get new tires. And so what that meant was that when the race restarted with 9 laps to go, he was in 1st place, great, but he had old, hard tires, which were worn out. Meanwhile, Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton behind him had faster, fresher, soft tires. So he was just a sitting duck when it came to really racing. Now, nobody benefited more from that late safety car than Sergio Perez. He had to pit when he got out. He got that front wing damage early on in the race on lap 5 or 6. Came out lap 6 in 17th place. So when lap 39 came around and you got Esteban Ocon on the side of the track bringing out a safety car, remember, Sergio Perez had not taken another pit stop yet. He worked all the way from 7th all the way up to the top of the grid, but he needed another pit stop, and if he took a pit stop, he would lose all his positioning and momentum. So when he was handed a gift, a 10 laps to go, getting able to put on fresh tires without losing position, I mean, that's incredible. He went, like I said, from 17th to 2nd, and he really could probably send Esteban Ocon's faulty fuel pump a thank you card for that, because that safety car allowed him to get fresh tires and hold position and allow him to finish 2nd in the race. Now, the final 9 laps of this race were incredible. If you haven't seen it, like if somebody didn't watch the race, fine. Go watch the final 9 laps, because Carlos Sainz kind of took off early and got a lead and ran away with 1st. But the battle for 2nd was unreal. There were 5 cars all really close together, swapping positions back and forth, wheel-to-wheel racing. It was so entertaining. It was awesome. Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, they're all in the mix, and they're all right there. It was awesome. I loved it. And again, in the end, the podium was Carlos Sainz in 1st, Sergio Perez in 2nd, and Lewis Hamilton in 3rd. But the final 9 laps of this race, I can't say enough how entertaining they were. And it was very disappointing for Charles Leclerc, who finished 4th, because he should have pitted under the safety car. He could have got new tires, and instead, at the end of the race, he didn't have good enough tires to compete well with the podium finishers, and it felt like another huge missed opportunity for Ferrari and Charles Leclerc. By the way, shout out to Sergio Perez. He constantly reminds me that when Red Bull made the move to bring in Sergio Perez, they moved on from Alex Albon. They made a last-second decision to go get Sergio Perez. That move is so incredible, almost underrated how good it was, because you have 2 drivers, Max and Checo, who can get on a podium and even win a race. And Sergio Perez doesn't let his ego get in the way. He's like, Max is the number 1 driver. I don't necessarily love that, but that's how it is. So he listens to team orders and is a great teammate, but when Max is out, he can win and get on a podium. And I can't say it enough. I think my favorite racer right now in Formula One is Sergio Perez. I love the guy. I love his story. I love how he operates. And I just find him really admirable. The person he is, the way he carries himself. And his story is so good, man. A guy who almost is out of Formula One, who had never done much in Formula One because he's raced for bad teams, got an opportunity and just is running away with that opportunity for Red Bull. I love, love, love to see that. I'm also really happy for Mick Schumacher. He got his first ever points in Formula One. He's been close a couple times. Finally, he got it. Great day for Haas all around. Mick got 8th. Kevin Magnussen got 10th. And after Silverstone, here are the standings in Formula One. Here are the driver's standings. Max Verstappen is in first with 181 points. In second, you got Sergio Perez with 147 points. In third is Charles Leclerc with 138 points. In fourth is Carlos Sainz with 127 points. In fifth is George Russell with 111 points. And in sixth is Lewis Hamilton with 93 points. Here are the constructor or team standings. Red Bull has a hold on first place. They're way ahead, 328 points. In second is Ferrari with 265 points. In third is Mercedes, closing the gap with 204 points. In fourth is McLaren with 73 points. Right behind them in fifth, Alpine has 67 points. This battle really that I'm most interested in Formula One. Can Mercedes get to Ferrari and take away second place from Ferrari? I think they can. They're gaining on them. And then Alpine, man, they're 6 points behind McLaren, and I think right now Alpine's a better team than McLaren. I think Alpine is going to finish ahead of McLaren this year, which is really cool and shows a lot of progress that team in France has made. The next race is on Sunday, July 10th in Austria at the Red Bull Ring. Going to be awesome. I can't wait. And, man, Formula One is my second favorite sport. I really love it. Football and Formula One. Who would have thought that when I was a kid? I never, ever would have thought that. But the more I follow Formula One, the more I get to know it, the more I pay attention. It's just such a beautiful sport with so many interesting and cool storylines. So I love it. I'm enjoying it. Hope you are too. And July 10th, we'll cover the next race much sooner because I don't want to be 4 days late next time. I've just been busy and running around, and I'm finally settled, and things are going well. So, yeah, Silverstone, it was incredible.